everyone, I'm so glad to have you here. Today we're going to look at my favorite way to add texture, especially as we're getting into the holidays and you may want to be creating snow. I want to show you some fun, different tips for using more texture on your cards. All right, so let's get into this. We'll start with some ink blending because we're going to make our background. We're going to use Peacock feathers around the outside edge, and then we're going to use Salvaged Patina in the middle. Now, while we're doing this, please hit the like and subscribe button. That helps me out so much, and about 80% of you are not subscribed to my channel. That makes a huge difference for us YouTubers, so I would appreciate that so much. With this ink blending, I'm working on creating a spotlight effect. So I'm taking my darker color, which is the Peacock feathers, and I'm going around the outside edge. I love these blending brushes, but I'm going to show you a different type of brush that to me makes it a lot easier to create that spotlight effect in the middle of your card. Now granted, you can make a spotlight effect with any type of brush, but with these smaller brushes that I have right here, sometimes you have to do quite a bit of work to fill in evenly the middle, as you can see. So I'm going to use the Salvaged Patina in this larger brush. This is an Altenew blending brush, and it's a large circle. So it really helps me get the middle of this really even, and I'm using Bristol smooth paper, so it just blends great. And then once I get that middle as smooth as I want, I can bring in the smaller brush of the Peacock feathers, and I can really emphasize that effect. So while I get this stencil set, which this is one from scrapbook.com, all of the different snowflake stencils are amazing. I just love what you can do with them and how cool they look on these projects. So very fun. But while I get this set, I just want to say that I have a lot of new shorts out on YouTube. And if you have not checked them out yet, I would love it if you do. Those take a lot of time, but they're really fun. And I'm hoping that all of you will love seeing just quick little snippets of cards and quick tips from me. Okay, drum roll, here's what we're going to be using for our texture. It's the Altenew embossing paste. This is a white paste. It's kind of fluffy. You can do so many things with it, and I have tons of videos on it. This big plastic piece that I have here is a piece of Glad press and seal, and if you are using paste or anything in your crafting like that, that press and seal is so helpful at keeping it from drying out. So just consider doing that, just a little tip. To keep all of your paste and mixed media from drying out as easily. Now for our background, we're going to be using a palette knife. You can use, there's just anything that you normally spread paste with are fine. I like using this palette knife, and I'm just going to place it and get all of these snowflakes covered. This will take a little bit of time, and know that this paste, it's a more fluffy textured paste than some of the others. It's not shiny, and that texture is really nice. So you don't want to leave little marks from your palette knife in that texture, so that you'll see that I smooth over it a few times. I'm just making sure I get the nice fluffy texture and don't have any lines left from my palette knife. So I'm going to speed the rest of this up, but I love watching people doing stencils, so I'm going to leave this in. If you want to skip ahead to the reveal, then skip ahead 15 seconds. You do need to let this dry. You can of course pull your stencil off, and you'll probably want to wash that stencil pretty quickly so you can get some of this extra stuff off of it, but leave it alone at least an hour, probably 2 to be safe. Okay, here's our stencil reveal. Now, of course, this stuff is a mess, so you'll need to wash your hands and all that before you touch it, but look at how beautiful this looks. I just love that spotlight effect and how much this sticks up off the paper. Okay, I skipped ahead to the ink blending of this, but I want to show you what I did because I use this technique a lot with ink blending. I went on and cut out the Let It Snow, and then I used a piece of tape and put it back in the piece of paper that I cut it out of. I know that seems weird, but I like to do this because then I can see where my letters are going to be, and I can go ahead and ink blend, and I have more to hold on to than if I take those letters out and start ink blending and having to hold a little area of the letters. It also keeps me from bending these letters, because sometimes if I get crazy with my ink blending, I will actually blend so hard that I kind of peel up the paper, and I don't want to do that with something small like this sentiment. So the bottom part of this is ink blended with picked raspberry, and the top is with the Kitsch Flamingo, but I end up deciding to add a little bit of picked raspberry almost to do an ombre of each word. So I started trying to do it this way, and then I decided I would add some of my raspberry to the bottom part of each of these words. Now this would probably be easier with a smaller brush, but it turns out really nice, and I really like how it worked out. Now you can see that I'm adding more of this picked raspberry to the bottom part of let, and I even go in and add just a smidge to the word it, but for the most part I keep it on the let and the snow. And then I'm just melting these things together. This is going to be a focal point of the card, so I'm just making sure that I've got a really good blend here. Next, we're going to go in and we're going to add snow to our sentiment. So I'm finishing up this blending. Let me show you what it looks like up close so you can see. And then I'll just take my letters out and add the snow. So we're going to use that same embossing paste, and it doesn't take a whole lot to do this, but I'm going to use it to kind of make a fluffy ridge on the top of these letters. I start by using my palette knife to add some of this to the top of these letters, and that does work, but I feel like it gets better when I just decide to get messy and use my fingers. And this does take some patience and playing with it, but I decided when I used my fingers that it really does come off your fingers pretty easily. I mean, you do need to wash it off, but it didn't hurt my fingers at all, and it's just so much more, I guess it gives it even more texture because you're touching it and kind of pushing it up and back. But I just think this stuff looks like amazing snow. So I'm just adding enough where I can't see my ink blending through it. So make sure I'm getting it thick enough. And then I'm going to put it on all the ledges that if snow were falling on the top, it would look like it was hitting those. So there's not really a way that you can mess this up. It looks super cool no matter how you do it. So because I'm putting this on everywhere that I feel like snow would fall, these curved areas really do require your finger. If you're able to do them with a palette knife, then yay, but I could not do it. So I had to go with my finger for these. And it just looks so cute and adds such great detail. Okay, so I'm finishing up. I'm going to show you an up-close photo so you can see what I'm talking about. And then we'll go to finishing up the sentiment and putting together the background, which I did add some extra fun jewels to that really make those snowflakes pop. Look at that, so cute. Okay, so I did add Dear Santa from the scrapbook.com Wordfetti because I think it looks so cute. It just adds a little extra excitement to it to have something else with this sentiment, since that's going to be the main focus. So I went on and cut myself about 1/4 of an inch strip, and I'm going to heat emboss this with silver. So with strips like this, you could use a sticky piece of paper. I love using the grids in my Misty so that I can see that I've got my piece of paper straight. I started off thinking about using black, so that's why I'm stamping this in black, but I did end up using heat embossing in silver because I felt like the black was just too much contrast for this background. Since it's just going to be a small piece, I wanted it to kind of blend in and be sparkly, so I went with silver. So to put this card together, I wanted to go ahead and put the Let It Snow down before I start adding jewels so that I don't add jewels where I need this to lay flat. I did cut out 2 more of the Let It Snows in white cardstock, just some scrap cardstock, to give this some height versus using something like a foam tape. So I put that there. I did use liquid glue, and I'm carefully placing it so that I've got it centered and level, and then we'll go in and add our small Dear Santa sentiment. So here's the size of that Dear Santa. Now you could make this strip at the end, in the middle, wherever. I just think it looks really cute tucked right there. And do you see the difference in the silver? The other one was black. There's not a huge difference on camera, but I just like the silver better. So I'm going to cut this down. That's one thing about making these strips. If you make them ahead of time, you can stamp on them. And if you don't need all of it, you could use that strip again, or because that strip is all the same amount of, or I guess width, you could use it to back your Dear Santa and add some more layers to that as well. I'm just going to use regular double-sided adhesive for this piece, and that's because I want the Let It Snow to stick up further than everything else, so I didn't want any foam tape added to the back of that sentiment. These are jewels from Pinkfresh Studio that scrapbook.com sells, and I played with these all around the sentiment, but I decided they really look nice as the middle of the snowflakes, and they do have a slight pink color to them, which just kind of adds to the design. So I just took them in different sizes and shapes and added them to the middle of all of the snowflakes, and I thought that turned out really nice. I did add a few in some blank areas just because of how I cut this panel. There's some areas where I felt like it just needed something else to kind of flow with all of those centers. So I did put a few extra on there. Let me show you up close. And here's how that looks. I just really love how this turned out, and I wanted to show you up close. You can see I did take up a little bit of empty space with some of the jewels as well. I hope that everybody enjoyed this. I've really had fun with this card, and I hope that you guys will try out some different types of textures and paste and see what you think. There's so much you can do with this paste. I just love it, and I've got several videos on it. Make sure you hit the subscribe and like button if you hadn't done it yet, and of course everything that I used will be listed in the description. Those are affiliate links. They do not cost you anything, but they do provide a small commission for me if you are going shopping today. So I hope that everybody has a great day, and I hope to see you on the channel again soon. Make sure you check out some of those shorts. Bye!